우리 원장님 들어오셨네.
이렇게 보이는 거 괜찮으세요? 아니면 얘를 이거를 조금 더 크게
아니 괜찮아요. 적절한.
저희 모니터링 해야 되니까.
이게 스피커니까 경우에 따라서는 조금 이쪽으로 와서
그래.
제가 이제 설명하고 저쪽으로.
그러면은 방향을 저한테 드리면 이렇게 해줘야 되죠. 시작하나 보다. 아니, 그거는 그냥 준비하시면 돼요.
Yes, I think we are about to start. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Today is Thursday, and it means that we are having another episode of our wonderful, one and only Arbitration Kitchen. Today we travel across the globe and to Korea, and we'll speak about Korean arbitration, about Korean food, most of us like very much, tasty and different. And we have two wonderful guests today. Professor Hi-Taek Shin, who is the chairman of the KCAB International, and Ms. Hyun Lim, who is the Secretary General of the Institute. Good evening. Good evening. How are you doing today?
Very fine.
Good.
Good. We spoke about the weather and everything, and the weather seems to be perfect in Korea. Spring, you said, is the wonderful season. Do you have anything special you do in this part of the year, or food you cook, or some national traditions you normally do during this part of the year?
Well, it's usually a lot of picnics, a lot of time outside, enjoying the cherry blossoms, which we thoroughly enjoyed during the last month or so. We still have lots of flowers, and it's like a great time overall for everyone.
Beautiful. Well, what are we cooking today?
Today we are going to cook the traditional Korean dish called Japchae. It could be called as noodle salad from Western standpoint. It's a very traditional dish. It's a mixture of noodles with a variety of vegetables with distinct colors, with a modest amount of meat. Traditionally, this dish symbolizes diversity in harmony and balance. And that's the working spirit of KCAB International. So we chose Japchae for that reasons. And also it's a healthy food, a lot of vegetables with a modest amount of protein. So we would recommend that you try that in your jurisdictions.
Right, and let's speak about the ingredients of the dish. So do you have it on your screens now? I'm trying to demonstrate it on my monitor. Wait a second. Yes, do you see it?
Well, I see it on my screen.
Yes.
Okay.
So what do we have? What do we need for the dish?
Yes, like Professor Shin just explained, this is a dish that involves a lot of vegetables, a little bit of meat, and a great deal of harmony between the different types of ingredients. It's a very savory, umami type of taste, very meaty, but at the same time, it's not too heavy. It's very nutritious. You can actually go totally vegetarian by taking out the meat. So it's a very popular dish. It's like a dish that we use for birthday parties, for get-togethers, and it's a very festive, celebratory dish. So it's great that we'll be cooking this together, and I'll take you through step by step with the different ingredients that we have. In the screen, you see the ingredients, but we'll have them in front of our table, so you'll see them in real life, or this
Good.
in the camp.
Good, and I assume we'll need some pot tray, some utensils, and that will be very simple. Knife and small bowl and a plate, a couple of pots for spinach and noodles, a strainer to rinse noodles with water, large frying pan, small frying pan, and a couple of large bowls, and of course a serving dish. All right, why shouldn't we start?
Okay, well,
I'm very excited.
all right. So first of all, just for housekeeping purposes, I'll put on my gloves, which will help me keep away the, I guess, keep the.
As you see, today's main chef is Sue, and Korean ladies of my mother's generation took pride that they never let husbands and sons into their kitchen. So the Korean men of my generation felt initially very happy that they do have traditional mothers, but now we realize that we have a very substantial disadvantage that we are not able to cook something other than ramen and pouring hot water into ramen. So we are really very vulnerable and totally dependent of our domestic bosses. So I will hand over the stage to Sue. She will be the primary cook. I will just follow her marching order, what to do, some triggered support. Okay, Sue?
Okay, all right. All right, but now since Professor Shin mentioned it, cooking now is like the favorite hobby among men these days in Korea. So it's definitely a society where we see a lot of change and a lot of change in the roles of the roles among men and women. But anyways, putting that aside, we have the steps of the recipe. I think you'll upload it in your website, but if I can have the camera looking downwards to this tray here, I have a tray of Dangmyeon, which is sort of like another word often is called the starch noodles. And I've pre-soaked it so that I can save time while boiling them. I'll have to boil them later on, but if I pre-soak them, I will save some time during their soaking. After that, well, I will start slicing the vegetables. And one very interesting thing about this Dangmyeon, or this Japchae, is that it has 5 different colors. And you can't really say this is a Japchae unless you have the 5 colors. The colors will be red, which is symbolized by the carrot here, the green, which is the green onions and the spinach, black, which is symbolized by the mushrooms, and the white will be symbolized by the onions. And later on, I'll show you a garnish that I'll make out of the eggs, which contains the color yellow and white at the same time. So just really quickly, I'll slice the carrots into matchsticks. Oops. You probably don't need a whole carrot, half a carrot probably. And then you'll slice it in a way that's a little striped. We don't want them too large, or else it takes forever to cook. So I will slice them in a way that are shaped shaped in stripes and sizes of little matchsticks. Right.
Right. While you're chopping carrots, we have the list of ingredients in our chat room in this webinar, so the participants can see it and follow you. While you're chopping, I would like to introduce a little bit in more detail both of our guest speakers today. Well, I would love to start with Professor Hi-Taek Shin, who is the chairman of the Korean Commercial Arbitration Board International Division. I understand that the International Division was launched in 2018 just to meet the international demands of arbitration in Korea. Professor Shin is a graduate of Seoul National University in 81, and then LLM from Yale Yale School of Law in '83, and he received a JD from the Yale University in the '90s. Professor Shin is a legendary figure in Korea because he was behind the drafting of the Modern Arbitration Act in Korea, and he was he chaired the special commission for the enactment of the Arbitration Promotion Act, which rarely seen in any countries. So you not only have the Arbitration Act, but you also have an act how to promote arbitration, which is interesting. And we would like to later on hear about how you promote arbitration, what are the objectives, and long and mid-term goals. Our second wonderful guest today, the one who is behind this magic of cooking, is Ms. Hyun Lim. She is the Secretary General of the International Division of the Korean Commercial Arbitration Board. Ms. Lim is a very international figure. She has also studied in the New York University School of Law and worked in a US law firm before she returned to Korea, where she worked in one of the prominent law firms in Korea. She is recognized in Who is Who Legal Arbitration Future Leaders, and she's been heading, Ms. Lim, she's been heading the KCAB International since 2018, which was recognized by the Ministry of Justice. I know that major arbitration outlets such as the Global Arbitration Review paid a special tribute to that. So this certainly is one of the most expected and anticipated developments in Korea. Okay, so back to you. Sorry for this lengthy introduction, but I thought it's worth just letting our viewers know about the participants. So what are we doing now?
Okay, so I've finished slicing the onions. And the point about the onions is that you have to make sure you slice them vertically. So you have to slice them this way as opposed to this way. It's just to make sure that the flavors are in a way that the flavor stands out. The next thing I'll do is I'll start marinating the beef. And here in front of me, I have some pork. You can do beef, you can do pork. We don't usually do chicken, but I would prefer pork or beef. And in the bowl, if you put in a little bit of soy sauce. Let me see. I think I've got. Oh, I can always.
Is this soy sauce? You have to
Soy sauce in front of me, and I will use 2 teaspoons of soy sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll use 1 teaspoon of garlic, and a little bit of, I think, of the sesame oil. And after that, I will just toss it around in my hands and just let it stand for a while and put it for a side, because we're going to come back to this when we start stir frying it. If you marinate it for about 5 minutes or so, it should be enough. I'll just put this on the side like this. And then after this, I will start cooking the vegetables. The point about japchae is that you have to cook the vegetables separately. So you can't toss in all these different ingredients, or else the flavors all get together, all get blended together, and that's not the point. You want to make sure each of the ingredients have their natural flavor come out from the ingredients. So I'll start. I think the first ingredients that should come out is it's actually the sliced carrots. So I'll put. First of all, you have to put a little bit of cooking oil, not too much, or else the carrots will fry. Just enough so that you can stir fry them, right? Swirl it around. And then into the fry pan, you should put in the carrots. Let's see, you can use a spatula or you can use a wooden chopstick. So you just toss it around. And then you should fry it so that it's not too overcooked, but just so that the raw quality of the carrots are tamed in a way. So this is something that you should stir for about 3, maybe 4 minutes. The thinner you slice the carrots, the shorter the time. I didn't do a very good job in slicing the carrots thin, you know, but it'll do.
So are you cooking on how big is the fire? How intensive is it? Is it
So
like
it's a
mid or
medium
small?
fire. It's a medium-sized fire, and medium-sized fire should do.
Right. While you are frying carrots, let's get back to your personalities, because this will be also interesting to see your involvement in arbitration in Korea, and I'm sharing the screen now, and this is Professor Shin, if he is still with us.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Right.
And I just want to hear the comments on these pictures. So this is the Seoul National University School of Law, where Professor Shin spent much of his time teaching international business law and dispute resolution. Perhaps you could give us a few more insights on that, Professor.
I moved to, after 27 years of active practice at the leading Korean law firm, I moved to academia full-time as a full-time professor in 2007. It was when the legal education system of Korea changed from undergraduate law college system to American-style professional law school system. So I started teaching in 2007, 2008 on the graduate courses, and 2009 on law school classes. And really, it was a lot of practical legal practice related subjects. And students were very interested in learning practical aspects of law, how international business is being conducted, and what's the role of lawyers in those transaction stage, and also what's the role of the lawyers in handling dispute management or dispute resolution. So I started teaching international investment law and resolution of international investment dispute cases, so-called investor-state arbitration cases. And at that time, there was no cases against Korea, but students were very interested in learning in international investment law and dispute resolution. So my class was really very popular, and it was very satisfactory experience for me. And also, in terms of change, when I am the class of 1975 of Seoul National University Law College. At that time, out of 160 law students, only 2 ladies. But when I became a professor, and in 2007, our law school classes, the composition of the male and gender diversity is the female students are almost accounted for more than 45%. So it's a really big change. And women students are always, they are dominating the top 10 students list in the law school. So I feel that while at the moment, Sue is sometimes complaining about the gender diversity of our arbitrators and also lawyers, but I am sure that in 5 to 10 years, we should be concerned over the gender diversity from different just opposite settings. Maybe it will be predominantly woman lawyers, and we should think about the male lawyers as a minority. And so that's the kind of change of very fast pace of change in Korean legal education setting and legal practice setting.
Thank you. And yes, this is amazing, and it seems to be a global movement that gender diversity and other types of diversity are given way by the institutes. This is very important, and we will speak about your statistics to show that you pay special attention to that, which is certainly a progressive thing to have. I have another slide. Let me try to change it. Yes, this is you at a Korea Trade Commission as a chairman. I explained that you have had phenomenal involvement in the development of arbitration in Korea. Perhaps you could share this with us as well.
I started advising Korean government back in Uruguay round negotiation. So I was one of the first batch of Korean lawyers specializing in international investment and trade law. And 2016, I was asked to chair the Korea Trade Commission. It's a Korean authority agency, Korean government agency in handling trade remedies such as anti-dumping and countervailing duties issues. And it is a non-standing job. So while I was teaching at Seoul National University, I could still serving as the non-standing chairman of the Korea Trade Commission. And it was a very, very valuable experience for me to lead that Korea Trade Commission. And that picture, Trade Remedy, International Forum on Trade Remedies, is an international conference organized, hosted by Korea Trade Commission, inviting the heads of major Korea counterpart, trading partners, so that we could discuss on the common issues of interest relating to trade remedies and unilateralism, and how to overcome the overprotection or the temptation to resort to trade remedies.
Right.
And it was not always an easy mission.
Right. Back to you, Sue. What are you doing? The carrots are done nearly.
And I apologize for the sizzle. So what I did was, remember I marinated the pork and set it aside. I took the meat and I cooked it. So I cooked the ingredients in the order of carrots, onions, green onions, shiitake mushrooms, and beef. So now I have everything that is fried. Now comes the real part, which involves the creation of what we call the chidan. Chidan means egg garnish, which is you make these very thin pancakes out of egg yolk and egg white, and those will create a very colorful, vivid addition to the dish, and that is what I am about to do. Okay, just give me a few seconds. And usually at home, I have like 2 or 3 pans, so I can use too much pans, but right now I only have one, so I'll have to clean this with a kitchen towel. There it is. And I'll show you how to make egg garnish. I think this is the fun part of the cooking.
Fun part, but difficult part.
Yeah, that's the difficult part. So you have to make the pancake in a way that's very it's very flat, but also you can't break the pancake. You can't let it split. So it's a bit of a challenge here. If it doesn't work, we can always go to plan B. So no pressure here. But what you have to do first is crack the eggs. I don't know if the camera can capture.
Yes, we see it very well. Thank you.
Can you see it? Can you
Yes.
see the table? Okay, good. So right now I have two containers so that I can separate the egg yolk and the egg white. Let's see. Got the egg yolk. All right. Ooh. Ooh, sticky eggs. And then the egg white. And I'll put the shell to the side. And then I'll take a fork, which I can use to beat. And if you can see it, I'm beating the yolk together. You don't have to create any bubbles or anything, but
Right.
it's so that it's spread out nicely. And I should probably use a different fork,
Different fork.
Or
Yes.
I'll just use a different chopstick.
Oh, this is a more traditional way, right?
The more traditional way, that's
Yeah.
right.
It gives more oxygen to the dish.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes. In the meantime, our viewers, you can see the step number 2 and step number 3 in the chat room, what you're supposed to do.
Right. So right now I am in stage 2, where I'm trying to. I'm still working on with the pan, and this is the last part of the pan work, where I'm trying to make chidan, and should try to spread the oil out a bit, and then I'll put the egg yolk. And I see Professor Shin is learning very, very intently. You might want to do this after this dish.
I feel tempted to do that.
By the way, this is a very nice kitchen, very homey and cozy, and just so one of the finest kitchen we've seen on the program. I must say, well, to my taste. And
thank you very much.
Thank you very much for arranging all the dishes and the ingredients in good order, so the viewers can easily spot what you do. It's
The biggest thanks actually goes to Mrs. Shin. And this kitchen is the kitchen that we're borrowing from Professor Shin. They have a really nice, they have a very nice kitchen where we have very nice lighting, very spacious table. And here I'm trying to flip over the egg yolk. Ooh,
right.
Get this feeling that today might not be such a lucky day.
Yeah.
All right. I just get the idea.
Right. Yes. While you're taking care of that, let's get back to some of our slides. I've learned that Korea is, you should have it on your screen. I've learned that Korea is doing superbly well with the current COVID-19 situation, and one of the lowest rates of infected people, certainly one of the lowest death rates. And I started to read about that and understood that Korea was well prepared for that because of the previous, was it MERS? Outbreak of MERS, right. Yes. And so how is life in Korea these days, in Seoul and outside Seoul? Has anything changed, or you guys live normal lives, go to the office, go do groceries, shopping, etc.? So what's going on in Korea?
We were, in a sense, initially very much alarmed with the increased, fast-growing number of the newly infected people, but the government was successful. In a sense, it's the collaboration between the medical community and also the religious community and social community. And really people were very serious on putting masks from the outset. And at the initial stage, we have a shortage of mask supply, but we come up with some kind of rationing system, which worked quite well. And most of I think almost 100% of people going outside wear masks. So it has become our new normal. And KCAB itself has maintained the working at home policy for almost 2 months, and we relaxed that rule from in May, about 2 weeks before. And now we are regularly going to the office, and we have never implemented very strict lockdown. So while the people were asked to refrain from the social gathering and comply with social distancing, our work or our life is relatively free, and going outside or going to the supermarkets or going to whatever things you feel is necessary. And one of the picture with the guards with mask was taken by me while I stroll, while I took a walk during one of the weekend and one of the park in Seoul. And it was quite amusing that even the guard on ritual or old costume put on mask. So that's the seriousness we put on having the mask on it. And so we are very successful in maintaining or reducing the number to low tens. And then some youngsters start going out to the clubs and bars, and that caused some sudden hikes in number. So there was a lot of social pressure on those, and so refraining from going to the bars and those entertaining places. So now the number is back to very low figures. So while we are cautiously optimistic, but still we are very, very cautious. And really there are a lot of social pressure or peer pressure not to do some extreme things.
Right. Well, at least these days we see that there is no shortage of masks, even some of the religious monuments. Where
That's
those?
right.
Yes.
That's right.
Right. So you are back to normal, and the Arbitration Institute operates normally. You keep on administering the cases and accepting cases, and
yeah, we see that on international cases, most of our cases are being conducted on a virtual hearing using the video conferencing. But quite a lot of domestic arbitration hearings are really conducted at Seoul International Arbitration Center, our hearing facilities, as normal. So, but I expect that for foreseeable future, our international cases will have to be handled without physical hearing and through video conferencing. So we have improved our software platform for the video conferencing very substantially, and also going to make further investment to improve that system.
This is very interesting to learn, because we see that seems to be a race between different institutions these days, trying to implement more online platforms. In the Russian Arbitration Association, we developed this platform back in 2015, I think. It was long before the COVID. And we tested that through moot competitions. So each year we have 70 teams from across Russia. Russia is spread geographically. So not each regional university can commission its team, send its team to for in-person moot competition. So we basically delivered this moot to the homes of many students across Russia, and it's been tested for 4 or 5 years consecutively. We've been improving that, and from the outset we saw that that was the way to go. That was the way to go for the future, especially for smaller cases where you don't require extensive examination of witnesses or experts. Well, back to to our food. So I see there's a big bowl on Sue's right. So what's in that bowl? On the
So
left? Yeah.
I'm bringing the pot of water to boiling point, and this is so that I can start cooking the Dangmyeon, which is the noodles. So like at the start of the program, I had pre-soaked the noodles into the water. You don't necessarily have to do it, but if you don't do it, you'll probably take a longer time just to bring the noodles to the level of cookedness, so that makes the noodles all bouncy and springy. So I think the water started to boil just now, and I will start putting the noodles into it. It's usually ideal that you soak it so that the noodles are such that they are limp like this. And remember, this is based on potato starch, so it's not flour based, and we don't do al dente like the spaghetti. We try to boil it so that it's just enough that it's soft, and it's got this very bouncy texture to it. So that's what makes japchae very special. Some people don't even use noodles when they make japchae. I think it's because they want to minimize the carbs in the dishes. You can go totally with the
Right.
mushrooms and the spring onions and stuff. I will probably cook this for about 6-7 minutes, and I will ask Professor Shin to be my tester in terms of whether the texture is right or not. For the 7 minutes or so, we're happy to talk more about either our personal lives or more about KCAB International.
Yes, and that was my very next question to you. Let's speak about you, Sue.
Oh no.
Yes, you have a phenomenal life, an interesting life, and you seem to be traveled across the globe and brought a lot of experience back to Korea. I'm demonstrating the slide where you're supposedly young with your family members. Do you see it on the screen? Yes.
Yes, I have, and in fact, last weekend I spent some time rummaging through my old photos to find a picture of me relishing a dish of japchae, but I wasn't able to find that picture. But instead, I did find some interesting pictures of my past, which I thought might be interesting and funny, but also showing how I lived through my life and how it ended up, how that led me to be part of this institution. So in the picture that you see here, it's like a picture about almost or maybe about 40 years old, very old. And I think, and I'm pretty sure this is right before, I should probably leave the lid open, right before my father took the whole family out for one of his diplomatic missions. So my father worked for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and back in the 80s, that was like a really big thing because, Koreans weren't allowed to travel as much as they do now. In fact, the society was a very different society then. But anyways, that gave me a lot of exposure at a younger age, which probably you'll, if you turn the slides to the next slide, you'll see a picture of me in elementary school. I just chose the slides before that one. That one, yes. So that's me, maybe fourth grade, third or fourth grade, maybe. And it just shows a snapshot of how I spent most of my life. Most of the schools I went to, there were those international schools where you had very different nationalities, very different cultures. And that's more or less the environment that I was used to since I was young. And some people say, oh, you're so lucky you were able to learn English at an early age. But I don't think it was so much the English, but more the fact that I was always exposed to different ideas, to different cultures. And I think the best thing is that you get into direct contact with people from different countries and different backgrounds, and you actually form your independent idea that who these people are, as opposed to people who never travel and they have to rely on the media or some sort of stereotypical narrative of how foreigners act or what they are. And I think that has helped me to really accept different types of cultures and accept the fact that people are different from you, but at the same time, there's always a way that people can get together for their common interests. And I think that's been very much the mentality that I had. I'm glad you moved on to the next slide, because these are pictures. The first two pictures on the left are the pictures that I took probably right after I was admitted to the College of Law in Korea University. And this is a four-year university in Korea. And despite the fact that I studied all my life outside of Korea, I decided to go to university in Korea, majored in law. I really didn't have any idea what I was going to do after I graduated, but luckily or unluckily, when at the time I was graduating, the Asian financial crisis hit. And instead of trying to find a job in a big conglomerate like Samsung or Hyundai, what I decided to do, I decided to stay for the bar examination. With a lot of luck and a lot of chance, I was able to pass through it. It was really a lucky feat because the pass rate was like 3% or 4% back then. Let me just test let me test this a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to ask Professor Shin to test whether this is good enough, or whether I need to, boil a little more.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay.
Should it be undercooked a bit, or like al dente type, or
no, not al dente. We don't do al dente here. In fact,
No.
when you first test it, if you feel it's a little limp, that's probably right, because this is a dish. Japchae is not a dish you eat in a hot temperature. You actually have to cool it down before you eat it. But when you cool it down, the starchiness of this noodle actually creates a little bit of shrinkage in the noodles, so it's more bouncy than you think. So we don't do al dente. The feeling of being slightly overcooked might actually be on point.
right?
Okay, so
You mentioned that these are the potato noodles.
the potato starch noodles.
Yes, and that can be substituted by any other type of noodles, and also spaghetti, I assume.
Spaghetti could be an option. Udon could be an option. Those nice thick rolls of noodles that you see in the Japanese restaurants, or the
Rice noodles.
The rice noodles, the rice vermicellis, like you see in Vietnamese food or perhaps in Chinese food as well. Just that starchiness really is nice.
Right.
Let me blanch the spinach. The next part is to blanch the spinach because, like I said, we need the green in our japchae. So I'm using the pot that just finished boiling, and you shouldn't overdo in terms of blanching this. Just enough so that it's not too stiff, it's not too raw. About 20-30 seconds would do. And let me just swirl this around. Okay. Oh, yes, the fire is on.
So the japchae, what does it mean?
Japchae literally means diverse vegetables.
Okay.
So I think that you know the Chinese dish called chop suey.
Perhaps yes.
Yeah, it's a similar concept, but this is Korean version.
Okay, so it's about diversity. And speaking about diversity, I have a few pictures of your. I understand that to be a team of KCAB in Seoul, and I see that it's quite international. If this is what it is, it should be on your monitors now. Do you see it? How big is the Secretariat team of the Institute for the international cases?
So for the international cases, we have four case counsels, and we have 3 people who are more into the international relation or marketing area. We don't have like a silo style of compartmentalization where we have one person doing only one type of thing. We try to cross between the 2 divisions. I oversee both the case management team and also the international relationship team as well. And there are 9 of us. I guess if you include Professor Shin, that'll be 10. We have this constant flow of interns that come from different parts of the world. So they're also a very important part of our team. Last year in September, we had the IBA main conference, annual conference in Seoul. And if it wasn't for the help of the foreign interns back then, it probably would have been very, very difficult for us to have handled all those different cases. Yeah, so that's our team there.
Right,
okay.
and since we started speaking about the Institute, let's maybe give an overview where it comes from. And I'm now displaying a slide with a timeline of nearly 50 years of history here. Would be interesting to know where it comes from, what the roots are. Do you see it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the KCAB was established in 1966, and it's so far the only arbitral institution in Korea. It's mandated by the Korean arbitration law. And at first it started as a subdivision within the Chamber of Commerce, but later on they moved under to the Chamber of Ministry and Trade, Ministry of Trade and Commerce, sorry. And back in 2016, it moved under the auspices of the Ministry of Justice.
But it's a non-profit independent organization. So in order to establish or organize those kind of non-profit organization, you should make registration with certain ministry. That means that we were initially registered at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, but a few years back, I think 2016, the supervising ministry has been moved to Ministry of Justice, but is totally independent from the government.
Okay, right. And now you maintain independence, financial and organization-wise. I understand that your board comprises some leading professionals in Korea, and I'm showing this picture now. You will have it momentarily on your screens. This is the Korean Commercial Arbitration Board. So these gentlemen, are these the board members, or who they are? Who are they?
I think that that's for celebration of one of the launch of KCAB International. So some of them are our board members, but some of them are dignitaries from Korean Bar Association and also from the Ministry of Justice and industry associations. So that picture or the persons there, that's not necessarily, or not all of them are our board members.
Okay, and how big is the board?
I think that is, you got me. I think that is around 10 or 12. The exact figures are out of my mind at the moment.
Okay, and I imagine you have also international board members, non-Korean.
We have the KCAB has single board for both domestic and international, but our KCAB's president is in charge of administration and domestic case management, while I am in charge of international sector. And KCAB International has its own international advisory committee, which functions kind of quasi international arbitration, international court of arbitration for KCAB, addressing some of the conflict issues and important decisions. But
right.
That's not really board of KCAB.
Okay, so it's an advisory committee.
That's right.
Are you like a light touch institute, or you like the ICC, for example, you do some scrutiny of awards when they issued? Is there such a procedure?
I think in your words, if I borrow your words, we are like soft touch.
Soft touch, yes.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. So, Sue, yes. I see that you are prepared to do something else. So what is this?
So I finished the boiling, the blanching, and also the stir fry. So now comes the final part. I will be mixing the ingredients so that we have the final product. And I will start putting in the large mixing bowl the noodles. And then the next one will probably be the meat, if I'm not mistaken. And then comes, I think, the mushrooms. And then the green onions, and then the carrots. In no particular order, I just tend to put colors that are darker first and then later lighter. And then for the spinach, I would suggest that you should squeeze the excess water out because you don't want the noodles to get too soggy. So I'll do a little bit of squeezing, thank you. And if you have the culinary shears, let me see. The culinary shears, the scissors, sorry. Don't have it right now. Oh, there it is. I would suggest that you cut the noodles a little bit so that they are in a manageable size. If you don't cut them, they'll be too long and you'll be slurping the noodles during dinner. Not very good for polite company, right? And then you put in the spinach. And for the egg jidan, I don't know if the camera shows this. So for the yellow and the white garnish that I prepared, you put that on the side and you'll put them at the very end of the product. For now, just toss around the different ingredients together so that they're all nicely spread out, right? And you try to toss them before you start putting the condiments. And for the condiments, and I think the ingredients are somewhere in the website. Let's see if I have it here. That'll be a little bit of garlic. I usually use 1 teaspoon, not very large. Oh, not even 1 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon, sorry. You can skip the garlic if you're not really a garlic person.
Sometimes garlic flavor is a bit too strong for Westerners,
exactly.
while Koreans eat a lot of garlic.
It's considered very good for your health. And then the soy sauce, which is supposed to salt it. You can put a little bit of salt at the end, but I usually put 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, like 2.5 today. And of course, is that one? Oh, that's the sesame oil, thanks. The sesame oil is actually one of the crucial ingredients that you must have into the japchae. Without that, you kind of miss out on the umami flavor of it. So I tend to be a little liberal with the oil. And then next, I put sugar. I know some people are strict about sugar and they try not to put sugar, but you can put different substitutes. The sugar is not really to sweeten the dish. It's more to bring out the flavors of the different ingredients. So you don't have to overdo it, but if you add a little bit, it's like adding a pinch of salt at the end. Let's see, what am I missing here? I think I put it on. Oh, a little bit of pepper. When I was stir frying the carrots, I put in some pepper over there as well because that also helps in flavoring the carrots. And a little bit of salt if you feel that it's not salty enough. Let's see. Oh, I might have to ask my tester.
Well, before we go to is this?
Okay, well, let me ask my tester to see whether there's enough salt there. If not, I will have to put a little bit of salt, a pinch of salt, actually.
Right. Is it good?
Yeah, very good. Very
okay,
good.
well, after the show, I'm running to the Korean restaurant and order the japchae. Before we totally finish the dish, let's speak a little bit more about the institute, because this is something I would like to discuss with you, and this is something we discuss normally with our guests, about the figures, about the statistics and the objectives of the institute. I have this slide on the screen with the caseloads between 2013 and 2019, and I see that while these are the cases, well, there's certainly a curve up. So arbitration seems to be one of the means of dispute resolution in Korea. But interestingly, there's a large number of international cases, 70 cases in the last year. Do you think this is something like a point of growth for Korea? You will see more cases in a coming future, or there'll be like a stable number between 60, 70, 80 cases? And what do you do to increase the number of international cases, for example?
As Korea has been a major trading country, and there are a lot of international business transactions, and Korean companies now realize the value of international arbitration for their primary means of dispute resolution in international businesses. So some of the big international disputes has been referred to ICC, LCIA, and SIAC, and Hong Kong HKIAC. And now smaller companies are also recognizing the value of arbitration as a means of dispute resolution. So I feel that our caseload will continue to grow in the foreseeable future. And I think that there are a lot of potential for KCAB to be recognized as the preferred venue for Korean international businesses, and especially for small and medium-sized the dispute, which they find KCAB very efficient and tailored to meet their needs. But and also, as Korean businesses are being diversified, we see really diversified foreign parties before our before KCAB International. So could you add?
Yes, so I think the uniqueness of KCAB is that it's based in Korea, and Korea is one of the jurisdictions which we don't have a common law background. I know places like Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, they all have a very British-based legal tradition where a lot of the procedures are very much influenced by the common law litigation, whereas Korea is very much a continental law, a civil law base. The practitioners that are based around in Korea, even the ones that have common law background, they tend to be a little more favorable to being more efficient, to having more emphasis on documents, not so much emphasis on the cross-examination of fact witnesses. Document discovery tends to be a little more controlled compared to other environments. So that it's a bit of a cross between civil law and common law in a way that it's international, so that it has all the procedural safeguards that the common law background jurists would expect, but at the same time, it's not overdone. It's not overdone because the users and the major practitioners, they are very used to the civil law way of proceeding with disputes.
Right. On the same note, you've probably heard of the international initiative called the Prague Rules on the efficient conduct of proceedings in international arbitration. And this is precisely the idea of that not each case would need extensive discovery of evidence, be it witnesses or experts. Some of the smaller cases could be decided on the documents only, with a more active role of the tribunal, such as appointing its expert, for example, or allowing discovery to a certain limit, to a certain extent. And have you been contemplating anything like about the Prague rules, whether it's suitable for the Korean system of dispute resolution? What were your thoughts? I mean, if any. I appreciate that. It might be not.
Procedure-wise, KCAB is very versatile. It's very party autonomy. So if you have two parties from common law backgrounds and you have three members of the tribunal who just must have the common law style of discovery, then you go for it. I mean, the KCAB does not dictate what would be the more preferred way of evidence taking. But I think the fact that it's just based on a jurisdiction where people are used to the civil law style of litigation, I think there's just a tendency that evidence taking isn't as prolonged or as complicated. And so it's not really a matter of institutions deciding which method of evidence taking is the correct one. It's a matter of opening the rules so they're flexible and having a supportive secretary that allows the tribunal and the parties to find the type of evidence taking mechanisms that they feel are necessary to resolve their disputes.
Yeah, as an appointing authority, we always are thinking about whether the parties are, both parties, either side are coming from civil law tradition jurisdictions, or whether the governing law is a civil law or common law. So depending upon which is the governing law or whether the parties are from civil law, we tend to appoint those civil law, the arbitrator or presiding arbitrator with civil law background. And also if the governing law is common law, we tend to appoint common law background arbitrator. And our pool of arbitrators are very much balanced. And we do have a lot of continental European background, the arbitrators on our list. But at the same time, we also have very reputable common law practitioners and arbitrators. So we are very conscious of those background and the origination of the parties in making a right choice and custom tailored right choice arbitrator for the case.
Okay. Yes, I'm showing this slide, and it just illustrates the a great geographical diversity of arbitrators, and you have nearly 15% of them originate are US trained arbitrators, I understand, and UK. So representing quite a serious common law component in your cases, which we've seen in the previous slides, that at least 66 parties in the previous years will come from the United States.
Right.
Then you have Chinese arbitrators, which is understanding because probably of the economic ties in the Southeast Asia with China. But what's interesting is Germany. Is it because of the high-tech industry? So what would German cases, what would German parties find interesting and tempting in KCAB? Have you explored that? It's interesting to know.
There's quite a number of them comes from joint ventures and trade issues. So there are a lot of those kind of transactions because some of those supplies from Germany or joint venture with German companies for supplies to Korean automobile industry or Korean IT industry. So they are quite a number of them are vendors, and vendors who wants to establish joint venture in Korea with Korean parties for ultimate supply to Samsung, Hyundai, all those kind of the final product assemblies. So we see those kind of cases coming from Germany.
Okay. And since we speak about arbitrators, and we pre-discussed it with you yesterday, and also you touched upon about it today about the gender diversity, and you see the certain that the diversity is changing, and you see more and more ladies being appointed by the parties and also by the institute. Do you see this trend continuing in the future, or this is what do you think?
It will continue, definitely.
Yeah. And like Professor Shin mentioned in passing, he mentioned that I complain a lot about the fact that there's not enough women arbitrators.
It's more pushing, nudging me.
It's not really complaining. It's persistently and politely insisting on a cause that we feel is right. KCAB is a signatory of the pledge, which I know a lot of law firms and almost all institutions are part of. And it really, a lot of the talent and a lot of the up and coming arbitrators, we find them a lot in women professions. And it's really important that there are people in the Secretariat that have this consciousness or awareness that you have to push that. When I first started as Secretary General, the numbers were probably even lower. I asked, but whenever we as in the Secretariat to consider the appointments, I explicitly asked my case counsel to have a very good mixture in the pool of candidates, of female attorneys, of people of different ages, of different backgrounds. And after we see them together in a pool, then we can make a proper assessment. If people just go by what they're used to, or they just try to play by they try to play it safe by going back to the familiar faces, we don't really bring them changes as quickly as we want. So it really needs a bit of awareness and a little bit of a nudging, and that's what we're trying to do here at the Secretariat.
Right. Another angle to diversity is, of course, the age diversity. As we know, a young arbitrator is after her or his 50s. What do you do? And I have this next slide. What do you do in order to promote younger arbitrators, and how to become an arbitrator with KCAB? How to, if you have any insights on that, what you do to support younger arbitrators?
Right. So particularly in the cases where it's a low or medium-sized value, and it's a case where we have parties who are first users into arbitration, we are very actively looking into finding people that are in the younger brand, the younger in our international arbitration, meaning under 50. And we try to, because we know the candidate's background in their practice, in their private practice, we have a great confidence that even though it's first time, the arbitrators will do well. And we see people, once they're tasked with the job, that they're very responsible, they're very devoted to the case, and we make sure we take note of it so that that person will be given an opportunity next time for a larger case. So it's those little incremental changes that will bring on the difference.
Yeah.
Right.
One advantage for us is, as I have in the arbitration area as an arbitrator. So I know the people, how they played as a legal counsel, as a member of the team, advise or advocating for the client. So I always put a very keen eye on those emerging and young figures. And when I feel that they have a very good quality as an arbitrator, sometimes we proactively invite them to be listed on our panel. And then when the right case comes up, we try to assign them. So give the chance to be the first time arbitrator. So it's a very conscious decision between Sue and me to find out those new ones.
And speaking at conferences, writing in blogs or contributing papers, those are also ways where we all assess each other in terms of our level of proficiency, our level of professionalism, our depth of knowledge. So just being active and being seen and heard in the circles, even if it's not a real case, I think it's also very important. There's a younger group under KCAB called KCAB Next. And although there are 12 committee members, there's a larger group of people involved in the activities. And just by being exposed to each other, either through mock competitions or through seminars, I think that just gives us more comfort as to the conduct and the level of ability of each other. So that's also an important channel where you try to expose yourself and prepare yourself for your first appointment.
This is a very good advice. So basically, in a nutshell, one needs to be proactive and interested, genuinely interested in the profession and improving it, so his own or her own skills and being visible. And a part of, like, one way one of the ways how to enter into the arbitrator's profession, I assume, would be to tackle those smaller cases. And you have the expedited procedure with the KCAB. Could you tell us something about that as well?
Right. So the expedited procedures is a special procedure that we fast track the cases. So the idea is for a award to be rendered 6 months after the constitution of the tribunal. We have a system where if it's a case value or if it's a dispute that has a case value of under 500 million Korean won, which is about 500,000 US dollars roughly, it's automatically put into the expedited procedure. Or even if it exceeds, if the parties agree to put into expedited procedures, those cases are also put in the fast track mode. So generally, the expedited procedures tend to be the smaller value cases, but for the younger arbitrators who've been through it, the smaller doesn't always mean more simpler. In fact, many times or oftentimes the parties are not represented. They have no clue what arbitration is. So it takes a lot of hand holding by the young arbitrators. But in some ways it's even better because it gives you life lessons as a young arbitrator, and also you get to see everything from bottom up. So that's, I think, not only just so being appointed to small cases is not just a extra revenue generating gig. It's actually a very important step of someone becoming a fully established arbitrator.
Yeah.
Right.
And also on those when the first time or young arbitrators on the panel, our Secretariat tend to play a very proactive role in ensuring everything is on the right track. So we become much more attentive in monitoring and also sometimes guiding those young panels.
Right. And just as a confirmation of what you've said a second ago, your education activities, and there's a Seoul Academy of International Arbitration. You support various moot competitions, including the FDI moot. You have an internship program. How does it run? Is it like a 2-3 month internship for students? How can one apply for that internship program? Is it open to international students as well?
So the internship program is for lawyers, not only for lawyers, but it's also for students. I should actually say the other way around. And it's usually about 3 months, sometimes extended to a little longer period. And that's where we have someone sit next to us and help us in gazillions of things, like anything from promoting events or helping us proofread contributions of articles that we're trying to put into the media. And also, apart from that internship, we have a 2-day annual workshop called the Seoul Academy. And that's when we try to match the established practitioners and the younger students or first and second year associates in larger firms, and help them work through a mock case where you can actually do a live advocacy and have the more established practitioners coach you and also to give you advice on how to improve your skills. So that's also another way of education that we're helping.
All right. So, and the internship program is available in Seoul or also in, I'm just showing the map of the offices across the globe. Mm-hmm. Would that be also available in other countries where you have offices?
So far, it's only in Seoul, unfortunately, but the overseas office, we have the intention of expanding it depending on how the circumstances change. And if it's expanded enough, then we probably will be considering having internships in those offices as well. I'm glad you mentioned our overseas office. You'll see that we have one in LA, one in Hanoi, and also in Shanghai. These are the 3 jurisdictions that represent the most frequent nationalities that we see outside of the Korean nationals, the more frequent nationals that we see in our caseload. And we thought it would be useful if we had someone out there in the city to guide the parties through what the procedure is and help them through the administrative steps of filing a case.
Right. And we are coming to an end of our program, but just one final slide about the Institute I wanted to show and share with our viewers is the arbitration cases by industry. And to a large extent, if you look at the Arbitral Institute it's quite representative of the country's economy where it's based in. And we see that the construction sector and IT and trade basically dominate among other disputes, and it shows that it's a healthy economy and it's growing. Construction cases, IT, etc. Where would you see a point of growth in terms of the cases? So which industry is on the rise now, and say your predictions after this COVID-19 situation? Would you have more cases in which industry?
I feel that the construction, IT, and trade will continue to be strong. And we now see dispute on entertainment business, maybe spurred by the popularity of K-pop and also Korean export of movies or those kind of programs. So that will be the growing area for next decades or so. That's my expectation.
So yeah, construction is traditionally the strong area sector that we see. The daily trade, sales of products, I think those are like the bread and butter types of cases that we see every day, especially considering the mid-size, the value of the disputes. And really, IT could also be another area that we could see growth anywhere and coming up from the industry sector. But yeah, we're looking forward to diversifying the disputes that we're handling.
Right, it's very good to know. So where we are in terms of our wonderful dish, Japchae.
In terms of speed and efficiency, already done. So while we're explaining what KCAB does and who we are, I finished the mixing part of it. I was hoping to show everybody how I was doing it, but we had so many things to share that I just did it on the side. You'll see that I finished slicing the egg garnish. So you have this.
It's too light. If you can move the camera a little bit to yeah. Oh, this is yes.
Oh, okay.
Just focus on the dish. Yes.
Right.
So
you see the nice color here. All the mushrooms and carrots and spinach. The noodle is inside the different things. You see on the top that I sprinkled in some sesame seeds. That adds the savory flavor of the entire dish. And yeah, it's a nice salad that you can have during your solo meals, or you can have it after your friends are all over in your house. And in fact, this is what we might do. We have two of our KCAB International Relations staff member here together with us. So we're gonna, after we finish this, we're gonna share the dish, and we're gonna, celebrate the end of the program.
This is the dish you share. It's not like an individual dish. You share so you can take some.
Unless you have a very enormous appetite.
It looks gorgeous. Before we finish, we would like to take the advantage of our broadcasting time and bring some awareness of our viewers and friends and colleagues across the world about the various funds. They might be international, they might be funds in your jurisdiction, in your hometown, but funds which assist the doctors and other personnel to fight the disease, assist the patients, etc. In particular, this arbitration kitchen is well aware of the fund of the World Health Organization, which we are trying to support and encourage our viewers to support. And if you have an extra penny, please feel free to donate to whichever fund, but for the ease of reference, we have this one slide of COVID-19 response fund under the World Health Organization, and you will find it also in the description to this video on YouTube. So please support your local doctors, support the global doctors, and this is a very challenging times for each and every one. With this, we would like, first of all, to thank you for cooking and for your time. And it was a wonderful discussion, a wonderful trip through Korean arbitration. And perhaps you could show us how you share this dish. And I understand that there are plenty of hungry people around, and the cameraman and everyone. So if the entire crew could.
we're really thankful of the fact that we don't have a lockdown of sorts. So everybody can gather where they want as long as they're very careful. So it's good to have friends with us and share the dish.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making this possible for the entire crew of KCAB, assisting with the cameras and all the preparations and interesting stories. Yes.
Okay. Ooh.
So we will try.
Yes.
All right, the moment of truth.
오춘 푸쿠스나?
Oh, Chef Kusna, exactly. I'll use my chopsticks to dig into your dish as well. Well, maybe one day we'll meet in person and cook it again and do it, make it real. In the meantime, if you ever decide to visit Moscow, we'll be more than happy to host you and to show you around and show you Moscow and tell you about how we live, etc. Professor Shin, Ms. Lim, thank you very much. Thank you, the crew members. Thank you, the KCAB, for having this wonderful show on Thursday afternoon or morning. We wish you health. We wish you to stay safe. Thank you very much. And we'll see you soon, hopefully in person.
Okay.
With this, goodbye. Goodbye.
For now.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay.
나가도 되겠어. 고생하셨습니다.
아, 예.